Commander Jack Reynolds was having a spectacularly bad Monday. First, the coffee machine in the Pentagon's Joint Chiefs Wing decided to commit suicide by spraying scalding liquid all over his new uniform. Then his ex-wife called to remind him that alimony payments don't pay themselves. And now, approximately 15 minutes ago, the largest alien fleet in human history had appeared in Earth's orbit. So let me get this straight, Jack said, leaning forward in his chair as the emergency UN Security Council broadcast filled the screen. They just showed up? No warning, no "Hey Earth, we're in the neighborhood." Nothing? General Martinez nodded grimly. 17 vessels, each approximately the size of Manhattan. They're holding position just beyond lunar orbit. And they're doing what exactly? Nothing yet, just sitting there. Menacingly. Jack snorted. Menacingly? Did you really just use the word menacingly in an official military briefing? The room fell silent as the UN Secretary General appeared on screen, her face pale and drawn. Ladies and gentlemen, we have established initial contact with the alien fleet. They identify themselves as the Galactic Confederation and have requested an immediate global broadcast. We are patching them through now. The screen flickered before revealing what Jack could only describe as a blue octopus wearing formal attire. The creature had 6 eyes arranged in a hexagonal pattern on what presumably was its face, if faces were things that pulsated rhythmically. "People of Earth," the alien began, its voice a peculiar blend of synthesized tones. "I am Grand Admiral Vexatora of the Galactic Confederation. Your primitive planet has been monitored for some time, and we have determined that you have reached the threshold of interstellar awareness. As is our custom, we offer you a single opportunity to join our confederation." Jack leaned over to Martinez. "Is this some kind of cosmic timeshare presentation?" Martinez shushed him as the alien continued. "You will surrender all planetary governance to Confederation oversight. You will provide resources and personnel as required. You will adapt to our superior cultural and technological frameworks. You have 24 Earth hours to formulate your response. Be advised, in our 10,000 cycles of expansion, no civilization has ever declined our generous offer." The screen went dark, leaving the room in stunned silence. "Well," Jack said, breaking the tension, "that was dramatic. Did anyone else feel like they were watching a B-movie from the 50s? The president's face appeared on a separate screen. "Commander Reynolds, I understand you're our foremost expert on theoretical first contact scenarios." Jack straightened his coffee-stained uniform. "That's correct, Madam President. Though I should note that my expertise was largely theoretical until about 20 minutes ago. What's your assessment?" Jack took a deep breath. "They're bluffing. If they wanted to obliterate us, they would have done it already. This whole surrender or else routine smells like a psychological tactic. You don't think their threat is genuine? Oh, I'm sure they could wipe us out if they wanted to, but the fact that they're giving us time to respond suggests they want something from us that requires our cooperation. Dead planets don't make good allies or resource providers." The president frowned. "The Joint Chiefs are recommending immediate preparation for defensive measures. With all due respect, Madam President, what exactly do we plan to defend with? Our most advanced weaponry would be like throwing spitballs at a tank." "Then what do you suggest, Commander?" Jack grinned, a gleam in his eye that had gotten him into trouble countless times throughout his career. "I think it's time we show these aliens that humans don't respond well to ultimatums. In fact, I have a very specific suggestion for how Earth should officially respond." General Martinez groaned, already seeing where this was going. "Reynolds, whatever you're thinking, don't. Trust me, General," Jack said, his grin widening. "Sometimes the best defense is a good sense of humor." In the 6 hours following the alien transmission, Earth descended into a predictable spiral of chaos. Stock markets crashed, religious leaders proclaimed the end times, social media exploded with conspiracy theories, memes, and an uncomfortable amount of alien fan fiction. Meanwhile, inside the White House Situation Room, humanity's supposed best and brightest were arguing like kindergartners fighting over the last juice box. "We should immediately demonstrate our nuclear capabilities," insisted General Harkins, pounding his fist on the table. "Show them we won't go down without a fight." "And what happens when they respond by vaporizing New York?" Secretary of Defense Wilson countered. "These beings crossed interstellar space. I doubt our nuclear arsenal will impress them." The Russian ambassador scoffed. "Perhaps your American weapons won't impress them. Russian hypersonic missiles, oh please," the Chinese representative interrupted. "This is no time for military posturing." Jack Reynolds sat at the far end of the table, methodically constructing an elaborate paper airplane from the Earth's last stand briefing document. He launched it, watching with satisfaction as it sailed directly into the coffee cup of the Australian Prime Minister. "Commander Reynolds," the President said sharply, "since you seem to have solved all of Earth's problems, perhaps you'd like to share your thoughts with the rest of us." Jack stood, brushing imaginary lint from his hastily replaced uniform. "Gladly, Madam President. I've been analyzing the linguistic and psychological patterns in the alien message, and I've reached a conclusion: these Confederation folks are bureaucrats." Blank stares greeted him from around the table. "Look at their language. Rigid, formal, procedural, as is our custom. No civilization has ever declined. This isn't the language of conquerors, it's the language of administrators. They're not here to destroy us, they're here to process us." "Your point, Commander?" the President asked. "My point is that bureaucrats hate one thing above all else: disruption to their procedures. I think we should give them exactly that." The UN Secretary-General frowned. "Are you suggesting we, what? File an appeal?" "I'm suggesting we break their script entirely. They expect either terrified compliance or futile resistance. What if we gave them neither?" Jack walked to the central display and pulled up the alien transmission. "Notice how they emphasize their generous offer. The psychological subtext is clear. They're insecure about their status. They need us to acknowledge their superiority." "So you're proposing we wound their pride?" asked the British Prime Minister. "Exactly. Aliens or not, pride is a universal weakness. I bet their entire conquest playbook depends on shock and awe. So let's refuse to be shocked or awed." The President leaned forward. "What specifically are you suggesting, Commander?" Jack grinned. "A three-word response. That's pretty cute." The room erupted in objections. "You can't be serious. This is the fate of humanity." "Are you drunk, Reynolds?" The President raised her hand for silence. "Explain yourself, Commander. Think about it. They've staged this whole intimidating entrance, delivered their practice speech about their superior culture, and are waiting for us to either grovel or threaten. If we respond with casual dismissal, treating their ultimate threat like it's adorable, we completely undermine their psychological advantage, and potentially provoke them into immediate attack." General Martinez countered. "I don't think so," Jack said. "My guess is they'll be so confused they'll have to re-evaluate. They clearly want something from Earth, or they wouldn't bother with ultimatums. This forces them to engage on our terms." The President studied Jack with narrowed eyes. "This is a tremendous gamble, Commander. With respect, Madam President, we're already all in. The only question is how we play our hand." After 3 more hours of heated debate, multiple simulation scenarios, and what would later be described as the most profane diplomatic exchange in UN history, the decision was made. Earth would respond to the Galactic Confederation's ultimatum, with Commander Reynolds' suggested message, though with the addition of a request for direct diplomatic talks. As the 24-hour deadline approached, Jack stood before the global broadcast system, straightened his tie, and prepared to deliver humanity's official response to its first alien ultimatum. "I still think you're insane," General Martinez muttered beside him. Jack winked. "Probably, but if we're going down, we might as well go down with style." The broadcast light turned green. Jack cleared his throat and faced the camera with the practiced ease of someone who had spent his career delivering bad news with a smile. "To the esteemed representatives of the Galactic Confederation," he began, his tone casual and almost friendly. "On behalf of Earth and its various squabbling nations, I've been authorized to deliver our official response to your ultimatum." He paused, making deliberate eye contact with the camera. "That's pretty cute." Jack let the 3 words hang in the air for a moment before continuing. "We appreciate the offer to join your confederation, though we find your recruitment tactics a bit theatrical. Earth would be delighted to establish diplomatic relations with your civilization, but we'll be maintaining our independence. Thank you very much." He flashed his most disarming smile. "We suggest a face-to-face meeting to discuss mutually beneficial arrangements that don't involve the word surrender. We're reasonable folks, mostly, and I'm sure we can work something out that doesn't require anyone to bow, scrape or hand over planetary governance." With a casual salute, he concluded, We'll be standing by for your response. Reynolds out. The broadcast ended. For 30 agonizing seconds nothing happened. Then a minute. Then 5. Think they're discussing our response, Martinez whispered. Or preparing their planet-killer weapons, Jack muttered back. At precisely the 7-minute mark, every screen in the command center flickered to life. Grand Admiral Vextor appeared, its blue tentacles rippling in what Jack interpreted as agitation. Human representative, the alien began, its synthesized voice noticeably higher-pitched than before. Your response is irregular, unprecedented, possibly defective. Clarify, are you declining our generous offer? Jack stepped forward again. Let's call it proposing an alternative arrangement. Your standard package doesn't quite suit our needs. We're interested in more of an independent contractor relationship. The alien's 6 eyes blinked asynchronously. This is not how the process functions. The process is established. The process is efficient. The process is efficient. Boring, Jack interrupted. Look, Admiral Vextora, threatening less advanced civilizations into submission might be efficient, but it lacks imagination. We humans value creativity, and free will, and pizza. But that's probably not relevant right now. Behind him he could hear the president's sharp intake of breath, but he pressed on. Here's the deal. We'd love to join the galactic community, share knowledge, trade resources, exchange terrible reality TV shows, the usual cultural stuff, but we're keeping our sovereignty. The alien was silent for so long that Jack wondered if the transmission had frozen. Finally, Vextora spoke. This situation requires consultation. We will send a diplomatic vessel to your planetary surface. Prepare appropriate facilities for high-level negotiations. The screen went dark again. The room erupted in a mixture of cheers, curses, and confused murmuring. The president approached Jack, her expression a complex blend of relief and exasperation. Commander Reynolds, that was either the most brilliant or most reckless diplomatic exchange in human history. Jack shrugged. Why not both? The important thing is they're talking instead of shooting. And if the diplomatic vessel is actually loaded with invasion troops, then we're no worse off than we were before. But I don't think so. Did you notice how the Admiral reacted when I interrupted his precious process's speech? These aliens are bureaucrats to their core. We've just forced them to create a new form. Preparations for the alien delegation began immediately. After heated debate, the United Nations headquarters in New York was selected as the meeting site, though Jack had lobbied hard for Las Vegas. Yodor Nothing says, Earth is worth saving, like all-you-can-eat buffets and Wayne Newton. 12 hours later, a sleek vessel approximately the size of a commercial aircraft landed with impossible precision on the UN Plaza, somehow managing not to disturb a single flower in the surrounding gardens. Jack stood at the head of the welcoming committee, which included the UN Secretary-General, the President, and representatives from every major world power. He'd argued against such a high-profile reception. If they're planning to vaporize our leadership, let's not make it easy for them. But protocol had prevailed. The vessel's hull shimmered and a doorway materialized. 3 aliens emerged, each with distinctly different coloration and tentacle arrangements. Distinguished representatives of Earth, the lead alien announced, its voice deeper and more melodious than Vextora's. I am Chief Diplomatic Facilitator Krill, of the Galactic Confederation. We are intrigued by your world's unusual response. Jack stepped forward with a relaxed smile. Welcome to Earth, Chief Facilitator. I'm Commander Jack Reynolds, apparently humanity's designated smartass. He extended his hand before remembering the aliens lacked anything similar to shake. We're delighted to skip the whole surrender or die routine and move straight to constructive dialogue. Krill's tentacles rippled in what Jack decided to interpret as amusement. You are the one who delivered the one. That's pretty cute response. Guilty as charged. Fascinating. In 17,000 standard cycles, no species has ever responded to the Confederation's invitation with humor. Jack's grin widened. Well, Chief Facilitator, if there's one thing you should know about humans, it's that we tend to laugh in the face of certain doom. It's either that or panic, and panicking ruins the upholstery. Admiral Zox paced the bridge of the Confederation flagship, all 8 tentacles coiled in agitation. As the second in command of the expansion fleet, Zox had overseen the integration of 17 civilizations into the Galactic Confederation. Never, not once in their 312-cycle career, had they encountered a species like humans. Explain again. Zox demanded of the cultural analysis officer. How they responded to our standard ultimatum with mockery. Lieutenant Meb's display nodes flickered nervously. Not mockery precisely, Admiral. Our linguists classify it as sarcasm combined with irreverence. The consensus is that the humans are employing psychological countermeasures rather than displaying genuine disrespect. And this Commander Reynolds, he speaks for their entire species. Unclear, Admiral. Their governance structure is chaotically decentralized. However, their global communication networks suggest widespread approval of his approach. The phrase "that's pretty cute" has become what they call a meme and is being replicated across their information systems. Zox's chromatophores darkened in frustration. Grand Admiral Vex Tora is most displeased. The integration protocol has functioned flawlessly for millennia. Species 7219. Humans, Meb corrected gently. Species 7219. Zox continued pointedly, was supposed to follow the standard progression: intimidation, capitulation, integration, productivity. Instead, they forced us into unprecedented direct negotiations. Lieutenant Meb hesitated before speaking. Permission to offer an observation, Admiral. Proceed. The expansion protocols were designed for species with predictable psychological patterns. Our preliminary studies of humans reveal anomalous traits. They appear to become more unified when threatened, more creative under pressure, and more determined when facing superior force. You sound almost admiring, Lieutenant. Meb's tentacles twisted in the Confederation gesture of scientific objectivity. I find them fascinating from an evolutionary perspective, Admiral. Their planet has shaped a species that thrives on adversity rather than stability. Their cognitive patterns suggest that direct pressure triggers problem-solving, rather than submission. Zox moved to the observation portal, gazing down at the blue-green planet below. Are you suggesting our standard integration protocol is counterproductive in this case? The evidence supports that conclusion. Furthermore, our deep data analysis reveals something unexpected. Humans have produced vast amounts of speculative fiction about alien invasions. They've been psychologically preparing for this scenario for generations. Zox's sensory nodes pulsed in surprise. They anticipated contact. Not precisely, Admiral, but they've collectively imagined countless variations of this moment. Most remarkably, in many of their fictional scenarios, they prevail against technologically superior forces through unpredictability and what they term thinking outside the box. What is this box, and why is thinking outside it advantageous? It's a metaphor, Admiral, referring to unconventional problem-solving approaches. Zox absorbed this information silently, their inner membranes cycling through calculations. Finally, they reached a decision. Prepare a direct communication link to Chief Facilitator Krill. I wish to observe these negotiations personally. Within moments, a holographic projection materialized, showing the ongoing diplomatic exchange in the United Nations building. Krill was mid-sentence. Cannot simply disregard 10,000 cycles of established procedure, the Chief Facilitator was saying. The Confederation functions on uniformity and predictability. The human Reynolds leaned back in his chair, displaying the peculiar baring of teeth that humans called a smile. That's exactly your problem, Chief Facilitator. Uniformity works great for manufacturing spaceships, but it's terrible for building relationships. Each species, each planet is unique. Shouldn't your approach reflect that? Krill's tentacles coiled in the pattern Zox recognized as diplomatic distress. The human makes an unexpected point, Admiral. Krill transmitted privately to Zox. How shall I proceed? Before Zox could respond, Reynolds continued. Look, we've been researching your Confederation since you arrived. 17 member species, all following the same technological path, the same cultural norms, the same bureaucratic structures. No offense, but that sounds boring as hell. Efficiency is not boring, Krill countered. It is optimal. Is it though? Reynolds leaned forward. Where's your innovation coming from? When everyone thinks the same way, who's generating new ideas? Who's questioning assumptions? Who's saying, hey, maybe there's a better way to do this? Zox watched with growing fascination as discomfort rippled through Krill's passive communication markers. The human had inadvertently touched on a sensitive truth. Innovation rates within the Confederation had been declining for the past 1,200 cycles. Admiral, Lieutenant Meb whispered, The human's argument correlates with our own internal assessment reports. The uniformity doctrine has produced diminishing returns since the integration of species 7185. Zox made a quick decision. Krill, shift to protocol Omega-9. The chief facilitator's tentacles froze in surprise. Admiral, that protocol is theoretical. It has never been implemented immediately. On the holographic display, Krill's posture straightened. Commander Reynolds, the Confederation acknowledges the validity of your perspective. We propose a temporary observation period before formal integration discussions. We wish to learn about human creativity and adaptability. Reynolds raised an eyebrow, a human expression Zox had come to recognize as skepticism. You want to study us? We propose mutual study, Krill clarified, an exchange of knowledge and cultural perspectives. Reynolds turned to his fellow humans engaging in a hushed conversation. Zox took the opportunity to address Lieutenant Meb, begin comprehensive analysis of human problem-solving methodologies. I want to understand how a species with such primitive technology can display such sophisticated psychological warfare. Meb's display nodes brightened. Are you suggesting humans might have strategic value beyond simple resource extraction? Zox's chromatophores shifted to the pattern denoting grudging respect. I'm suggesting, Lieutenant, that any species capable of disrupting our entire integration protocol with 3 words might be more valuable as allies than as subjects. The negotiations with the Galactic Confederation had been moved to a repurposed conference center in Geneva, which Jack insisted on calling AlienCon 2025. After 3 days of talks, he had developed a keen understanding of their visitors' psychology and their weaknesses. They're absolutely terrified of embarrassment, Jack explained to the Earth delegation during a private strategy session. Every time we suggest something unconventional, they practically vibrate with anxiety over how it would be perceived by their superiors. The president nodded. I've noticed that too. Chief Facilitator Krill keeps referring to established protocols and acceptable parameters. Exactly, Jack said, pacing the room. Their entire civilization runs on precedent. No one wants to be the first to try something new. It's like an intergalactic case of CYA. CYA? The Chinese ambassador asked. Jack grinned. Cover your ass. Or in their case, cover your tentacles. General Martinez, who had shifted from skeptic to reluctant supporter of Jack's approach, leaned forward. So how do we exploit this? We keep doing what humans do best, being unpredictable. Jack pointed to the whiteboard where he'd sketched out his strategy. Every time they present a standard term from their integration playbook, we counter with something they've never heard before. Force them to refer back to their superiors. Disrupt their precious bureaucracy. And this helps us how? The Russian representative asked. 2 ways. First, it buys us time. The more unusual requests we make, the longer these talks drag on. Second, it shifts the power dynamic. They came here expecting to dictate terms to primitive Earthlings. Instead, they're the ones constantly off balance. When negotiations resumed, Jack implemented his strategy immediately. Before we continue discussing trade relations, he said casually, Earth would like to propose an interspecies cultural festival. Music, art, food, the whole shebang. We'll host, of course. Krill's tentacles twisted in visible confusion. Cultural festival. This is not a standard component of integration procedures. That's the point, Jack replied with a wink. How can we integrate if we don't understand each other? I mean, we don't even know if you guys have music. The Confederation catalogs and preserves cultural artifacts, but public displays of sounds boring. Jack interrupted. On Earth, culture is alive. It evolves. It gets messy. Tell me, when was the last time someone in the Confederation created a completely new art form? Krill conferred hurriedly with its assistants. We would need to consult on this proposal. Take your time, Jack said cheerfully. Oh, and while you're consulting, we'd also like to discuss establishing Earth as a special innovation zone with regulatory exemptions for human creative enterprises. This pattern continued for 2 more days. Each time the aliens attempted to steer discussions towards standard integration protocols, Jack would introduce a new conceptual wrench into their bureaucratic machinery. He proposed a human exchange program where Earth's most eccentric visionaries would visit Confederation worlds to share alternative perspectives. He suggested a reality show documenting the entire integration process, broadcast across both human and Confederation networks. He even floated the idea of a human serving on the Confederation's High Council as a creativity consultant. Each proposal sent ripples of confusion through the alien delegation and triggered lengthy consultations with their superiors. On the fourth day, Admiral Zox arrived personally. "Commander Reynolds," the admiral said, tentacles arranged in what the Earth delegation had learned was a gesture of formal respect. "Your negotiation tactics are unconventional." Jack shrugged. "We humans prefer the term creative." "Indeed." Zox settled into a specially designed seat. "I have reviewed the proceedings thus far, and have reached a conclusion: standard integration protocols are unsuitable for Earth." A murmur ran through both delegations. "The Confederation has existed for 12,000 cycles using established procedures," Zox continued. "But we have observed a concerning trend: diminishing innovation, cultural stagnation, technological plateaus. Your species' approach to problem-solving, while chaotic and often incomprehensible, produces novel outcomes." Jack leaned back, trying not to look too satisfied. "Are you saying our unpredictability is actually valuable?" "Reluctantly, yes." Zox's chromatophores shifted to a pattern the humans hadn't seen before. "The Confederation's Internal Assessment Division has been warning of ossification risks for 300 cycles. Your response to our ultimatum has illuminated the extent of the problem." Jack exchanged glances with the president. This was more than they'd hoped for. "So where does that leave us?" Jack asked. "I am authorized to offer Earth an unprecedented arrangement, affiliate status with sovereignty retention." The room fell silent. "In simple terms," Zox clarified, "Earth would gain access to Confederation knowledge, trade networks and protection, while maintaining independent governance and cultural development. In exchange, the Confederation would establish innovation exchange programs with human institutions." "You want us to teach you how to think outside the box," Jack said, not bothering to hide his grin. "A crude but accurate assessment," Zox admitted. "Your species' propensity for unconventional approaches represents a resource of significant value. And all this because we said your ultimatum was pretty cute." Zox's tentacles rippled in what the humans had come to recognize as the alien equivalent of embarrassment. That response revealed a psychological immunity to our standard intimidation protocols. It suggested a species that might contribute something new to the Confederation. Jack turned to the Earth delegation, his expression serious for once. "Thoughts?" The president spoke first. "We need guarantees. Verification protocols, detailed terms." "Naturally," Zox agreed. "Full documentation will require approximately 7 of your Earth days to prepare." Jack nodded slowly, then turned back to Zox with a mischievous smile. "One more condition: we want the official record to state that Earth's admission to the Confederation began with the words 'that's pretty cute.'" Zox's chromatophore cycled through patterns of confusion, irritation, and finally, what appeared to be resignation. "Very well, Commander, though I failed to see the significance." "It's a human thing," Jack explained. "We call it getting the last laugh." 1 month after the arrival of the Galactic Confederation fleet, the Earth Confederation Treaty was ready for signing. The ceremony took place in a purpose-built transparent dome in the middle of Times Square, Jack's suggestion, naturally. "If we're making galactic history," he'd argued, "let's do it somewhere with decent pizza nearby." The dome's design allowed thousands of New Yorkers to witness the proceedings while holographic broadcasts transmitted the event to billions worldwide and reportedly across 17 Confederation worlds. Admiral Zox and the President stood at a ceremonial table, surrounded by representatives from Earth's nations and various Confederation species. Jack watched from nearby, uncomfortably formal in his dress uniform. "Before we proceed with the signing," Zox announced, "I wish to acknowledge something unprecedented. The Confederation's High Council has officially recognized that our encounter with Earth has exposed systematic deficiencies in our expansion protocols." A murmur ran through the crowd. For 10,000 cycles the Confederation has prioritized uniformity over diversity, stability over innovation, and procedure over adaptability. This approach has brought peace and prosperity to 17 worlds, but at a cost we failed to recognize: cultural stagnation and diminished creativity. Zox's tentacles extended in a formal gesture toward the human delegation. Earth's response to our standard ultimatum. Here the Admiral paused, chromatophores briefly displaying what the humans now recognized as embarrassment, which the official record will indeed note began with the words "that's pretty cute," revealed a species with psychological resilience and cognitive flexibility that the Confederation has come to value. Jack couldn't resist a smirk as the President shot him a warning glance. Therefore, Zox continued, this treaty establishes not merely Earth's affiliated status, but the creation of the Confederation Innovation Initiative, headquartered on Earth, dedicated to the cultivation and dissemination of creative problem-solving methodologies throughout Confederation space. The President stepped forward. On behalf of humanity, we accept this partnership. Earth has always thrived on diversity of thought and challenging established norms. We look forward to sharing these values with our new galactic neighbors while learning from your considerable scientific and cultural achievements. The treaty was signed with appropriate ceremony, though Jack noticed several of the alien delegates flinching at the thunderous applause from the New York crowd. Apparently spontaneous public emotional displays remained disconcerting to Confederation sensibilities. Later, at what the media was calling the first contact after party, complete with hastily produced alien-themed cocktails, Jack found himself face to tentacle with Admiral Zox. Commander Reynolds, the Admiral said, the Confederation's diplomatic corps has created a new position we believe you are uniquely qualified to fill. Human Liaison Officer to the High Council. Jack nearly choked on his close encounter cosmopolitan. Me? A diplomat? Have you been paying attention for the past month? Precisely because of your unorthodox approach, Zox clarified. The Confederation needs individuals who challenge our assumptions. Your tendency to, as you say, shake things up, would be valuable. Jack considered the offer. So instead of invading Earth, you're hiring me to invade your bureaucracy, an inelegant but not inaccurate assessment. Will I get one of those fancy tentacle-friendly spaceships? Standard diplomatic transport would be provided, yes. Jack grinned. Then I accept on one condition. Zox's chromatophores displayed resignation. Another condition? I want to name my ship. Confederation vessels are designated according to standard. I'm thinking that's pretty cute. Has a nice ring to it, don't you think? Before Zox could respond, General Martinez approached, looking uncharacteristically cheerful. Reynolds, the President wants a word. Something about a promotion and a new interspecies diplomatic division. He glanced at Zox. Admiral, is he bothering you? He does that to everyone. On the contrary, Zox replied. We were discussing Commander Reynolds' new position with the Confederation. Your species' capacity for irreverence continues to be educational. After Zox departed, Martinez turned to Jack. So you're really going through with this? Becoming the galaxy's most annoying diplomat? Jack shrugged, watching the bizarre but peaceful mingling of humans and aliens around them. Someone's got to teach them how to lighten up. Besides, can you imagine their faces, or whatever they have instead of faces, when I start introducing them to human concepts like practical jokes and casual Fridays? Martinez laughed despite himself. God help the galaxy. I think they'll manage, Jack said, his tone becoming momentarily serious. You know what I realized during all this? The Confederation isn't evil, they're just stuck. They've been doing things the same way for so long they forgot how to change. And we're supposed to teach them. That's humanity's superpower, isn't it? Adapting, changing, finding new ways to survive. We've been doing it since we figured out how to make fire. As the celebration continued around them, Jack gazed upward through the transparent dome at the alien vessels still orbiting Earth, their massive hulls now seeming less threatening and more like a promise of possibilities. You know, he said, raising his glass, it turns out the galaxy needed exactly what humanity has always had: too much of a healthy disregard for the rules and the courage to say, when faced with overwhelming force, that's pretty cute. Now let's talk about something else. Martinez clinked his glass against Jack's. To humanity's first step into the galaxy. No, Jack corrected with a grin. To the galaxy's first step into humanity. They have no idea what they're in for.